"You're coming with me?" said the cowboy after he pointed his gun at her first. The twin suns hung low over the red prairie, painting the dust in copper and gold. Wind slid through dry grass that wasn't grass at all, thin crystal reeds that chimed softly when they moved. The sound followed the rider like quiet bells. Cal Hart rode alone the way he liked it. His coat was sand-colored and worn at the elbows. A scarf covered his throat from the dust. His hat brim kept the light out of his eyes. The animal under him wasn't a horse from Earth, but it moved like one, six-legged, steady, built for the long miles and the rough ground. Cal had been on this planet long enough to stop calling it strange. People here called it Bristle Ridge. It was a border world, a place where the law came late and left early. It was ranch fences, water ration cards, and hard work under two bright skies. He had been heading toward Dry Creek Station when a dust drone found him. It rose from behind a low ridge like a metal bug, small and quick, its wings humming. A lantern light blinked on its body as it matched his pace. Cal reached up and caught it by the frame with one hand, like grabbing a hat out of the wind. The drone resisted for a second, then went still. A tinny voice came from it. "Cal Hart, Dry Creek Station requests your presence." Cal sighed. "Of course they do." "Immediate," the drone said. "Payment offered." "That part I like," Cal muttered. He tucked the drone into his saddlebag and turned his mount toward the faint line of buildings in the distance. Dry Creek Station sat where old rail tracks cut across the prairie. Long ago, those tracks had carried ore from the mines. Now they carried nothing but dust. The town survived on trade, scrap, and stubbornness. Solar panels tilted on rooftops like black mirrors. A water tower stood tall, and a warning siren sat on top like a metal hawk. Cal rode through the main street, past a cafe that smelled of fried root and sweet spice, past a repair shop where a man argued with an engine, past a schoolhouse with a cracked window. People watched him. They always did. A man who tracked missing cargo and lost people had a way of collecting eyes. At the sheriff's office, Sheriff Leela Dane met him on the porch. She was tall, with gray in her braid and a look that did not waste time. The badge on her chest was old, but she wore it like it mattered. "You got here fast," she said. "Your little bug found me," Cal replied, nodding toward the drone in his bag. "What's wrong?" Leela's eyes flicked left and right, checking the street. "Not on the porch." Inside, the office smelled like paper, oil, and heat. A ceiling fan pushed warm air in slow circles. A map of Bristle Ridge hung on the wall with pins and notes. Cal noticed 3 new pins near the northern Badlands. Leela sat behind her desk. She slid a data slate across to him. Cal picked it up. The screen showed a grainy image, a crater in the prairie, smoke curling upward, and something half buried in the dirt, smooth metal not from any local factory. There was a shape beside it, blurred by heat distortion. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "An escape pod," Leela said. "Fell 2 nights ago. Folks saw the fire trail. We sent a team in the morning. Pod was cracked open. Person gone." Cal zoomed in. The metal looked like high-grade alloy, too clean, too advanced for Dry Creek. "Not a miner." "No," Leela agreed. And by noon yesterday, 3 strangers arrived asking questions. Clean boots, new clothes, too polite. Cal lifted his eyes. "Off-world?" "I think so," Leela said. "They said they were recovering property. They offered money, then threatened to shut down our water shipments." "I told them to leave." Cal leaned back. "So now you want me to find the person before they do?" "Yes," Leela said, "because whoever she is, she ran, and people run for a reason." "You said she." Leela's jaw tightened. "My team found a torn patch of fabric near the pod." "Women's cut. Also," she opened a drawer and placed a small object on the desk. It was a coin-sized chip, clear as glass, with a faint glow inside. Cal did not touch it. "That's not local tech." "No," Leela said, "and I don't want it in evidence. I want it out of my town before it brings trouble." Cal stared at the chip. In the glow, he thought he saw a pattern like tiny stars. "You paying?" he asked. Leela pushed a small pouch of credits across the desk. "Half now, half when she's safe." Cal weighed the pouch in his hand. It was good money. Also the kind of job that put a man between people with guns. He put the pouch away. "Where did the pod fall?" Leela pointed to the map. "Here, south edge of the Badlands. There's an old survey observatory out there, abandoned. Might be a place someone would hide." Cal nodded once. "I'll bring her back." Leela's eyes softened for half a second. "Cal, don't treat this like cargo. Treat it like a person." He met her gaze. "I always do." He left before the suns dipped too far. Out on the prairie, the light turned blood orange, and long shadows stretched like fingers across the sand. Cal rode hard, keeping to the low land where the wind carved shallow lanes. By midnight, he reached the crater. The escape pod lay on its side, half sunk into dirt. Its outer shell was scorched, but not as badly as it should have been. Cal walked around it, scanning with a handheld sensor. No life signs, no active beacon. Whoever had been inside knew how to go quiet. He crouched and studied the ground. Tracks were faint, but they were there, footprints heading northeast toward the Badlands, light steps, a limp on the left side. Cal followed. The Badlands rose like broken teeth, stacked stone and narrow canyons that could hide 100 secrets. The wind here was sharper. The crystal reeds disappeared. Only rock remained. A few hours in, Cal spotted something that made him slow down. A drone carcass lay shattered against a rock, its metal shell torn open. Not a local farm drone, this one had sleek edges and a black lens. Someone had smashed it with a stone. Cal touched the broken lens, still warm. He moved on, quieter now. He kept his mount behind a ridge and continued on foot. The old observatory appeared near dawn, a round building with a cracked dome. A dead antenna pointed at the sky like a finger accusing the suns. Cal circled it, no obvious movement, no smoke, no sound but wind. Then his sensor ticked once, faint heat inside. Cal drew his sidearm, but he didn't raise it yet. He approached the main door, which hung half open. Inside, dust coated everything. Old screens, dead consoles, and a telescope mount that looked like a skeleton. Light filtered through cracks in the dome, making pale stripes across the floor. A soft scrape came from behind a console. Cal's instincts snapped tight. He raised his weapon, aiming into the shadow. A woman stepped out slowly, hands visible. She was younger than he expected, maybe late 20s. Her hair was dark and tied back with a strip of cloth. Her clothes were not local, sleek fabric torn at the shoulder, dust smeared across it. She held herself steady, but Cal saw the limp. Her eyes were alert, too focused for someone who had simply gotten lost. Cal kept the gun up, but his finger stayed off the trigger. "Don't move," he said. She stopped. Her breathing was controlled, but there was strain in it. "You're Dry Creek," she said, voice rough, "or someone working for them." "Name's Cal Hart," he replied. "I track people. Dry Creek wants to know who you are." Her gaze flicked to the door, then back to him. "They sent you." "They hired me," Cal said. "You can come easy, or we can stand here until the sun's set again." Her jaw tightened. "And those others, the ones with clean boots," Cal's eyes narrowed. "You saw them." "I heard their ship," she said. "I heard their drones." Cal did not like the way she said "there," like she knew exactly what kind they were. He took a step closer, still aiming. "You're coming with me," he said. For a second, something like pain flashed across her face, not fear of him, but anger at the situation. Then she nodded once, slowly, as if making a decision she hated. "Fine," she said, "but you need to listen." Cal lowered the gun just a little, not enough to be careless. "Talk," she swallowed. "They didn't come to recover property, they came to erase it." Cal studied her. "Erase what?" She looked at his weapon, then at his eyes. "Me," she said simply. The word hung in the dusty air. Cal felt the truth of it in his gut. People with power did not chase runaway workers across a desert world unless something valuable was at stake. He motioned with his head. "Move, stay where I can see you." She took one careful step, then another. The limp was real. She was hurt, and she was still standing. That told Cal something about her. As they reached the doorway, a faint buzz drifted across the canyon, low and growing louder. Cal froze. The woman's face went pale. "Drones," she whispered. Cal pulled her back into the observatory and peered out through a crack in the wall. 3 black shapes skimmed above the rocks, moving in a search pattern. They were not local. Their wings did not flap. Their lenses swept side to side like eyes. Cal turned to her. "How far behind are they?" She shook her head. "Close, too close." Cal made a choice fast. "There's a service tunnel under this place," he said, remembering the old survey layouts. "We go down, we don't run in open ground." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." They moved through the dark building, Cal leading, gun low but ready. He found a hatch half buried under dust. It groaned when he pulled it open, and cold air rose from below. He climbed down first and held up a hand for her. She took it, her grip stronger than he expected, and came down carefully. Above them, the drone buzz grew louder. The woman looked at Cal in the dim light, her eyes reflecting the pale glow from the chip she wore at her wrist, something small and hidden but not completely. "I didn't want to involve anyone," she said quietly. "But if you take me to Dry Creek, they'll come there too." Cal stared into the tunnel ahead where darkness waited like a long road. "Then we won't take you to Dry Creek," he said. Her expression shifted surprise, then a faint, wary hope. Cal tightened his grip on his gun. "First, you tell me your name." She hesitated only a moment. "Myra," she said. The drones above screamed suddenly, a sharp alarm sound like metal tearing. Cal's eyes hardened. "All right, Myra," he said. "Let's see if they can follow us underground." And they disappeared into the tunnel as the twin suns rose higher, lighting the Badlands with fire. The tunnel beneath the old observatory was colder than the desert above. The air smelled like stone and rust. Thin lights blinked along the walls, weak but still alive after many years. Cal moved carefully, one hand on his gun, the other brushing the rough wall to keep balance. Behind him, Myra walked slowly, trying not to show how much her leg hurt. Above them, the faint hum of drones faded, replaced by silence. Cal stopped after a few minutes and turned back toward her. "You good?" he asked. Myra nodded, though her breathing was heavier than before. "I will be." Cal studied her for a moment. She looked tired but focused, like someone who had learned to keep going no matter what. He continued forward. The tunnel stretched deep under the rocks. Old survey markings were painted along the walls, faded arrows and numbers pointing toward long-forgotten stations. This place had once been important, but now it felt like a ghost. After a while, Cal slowed and checked his handheld scanner. The screen blinked softly. "No signals behind us," he said quietly. "For now." Myra let out a breath she had been holding. "They won't give up." "You seem sure about that." "I am." They walked in silence for a few steps. Cal finally spoke again. "You said they came to erase you," he said. "That sounds personal." Myra hesitated. Her eyes moved to the floor. "I used to work for them," she said. Cal stopped walking. "For who?" She swallowed. "The Authority." The word hung heavy between them. Cal had heard of the Authority. Everyone on frontier worlds had. A powerful organization that claimed to protect order across systems. They built stations, controlled trade routes, and decided which worlds mattered. "People don't usually run from the Authority," Cal said slowly. "They do when they learn too much," Mara replied. They reached a wider chamber where broken crates lay stacked against the wall. Cal checked the space carefully before lowering his weapon slightly. "Start talking," he said. Mara leaned against a crate, closing her eyes for a second. "I was part of a research team," she began. "We studied frontier planets, resources, populations, risks. That's what they told us. And I found files that weren't meant to be seen." Cal crossed his arms. "What kind of files?" She opened her eyes. There was anger there now. "Control programs," she said. "Hidden systems placed on remote worlds. Communication towers that listened to everything. Trade algorithms designed to keep certain colonies dependent. They weren't protecting people, they were controlling them." Cal frowned. He had always suspected powerful groups manipulated frontier worlds, but hearing it said out loud felt different. "You took proof?" he asked. She nodded. "They discovered I accessed restricted archives. I escaped before they could stop me." Cal let out a slow breath. "So now they want you back?" "No," she said quietly. "They want the proof destroyed." Before he could answer, her wrist device flickered with soft light. Cal noticed it immediately. "That's not local tech," he said. She pulled her sleeve down slightly. "It's a storage unit," she admitted. "Encrypted, the data is here." Cal shook his head once. "You're carrying trouble." "I know." They moved again, heading deeper into the tunnel until the ground began to rise. Eventually, they reached a metal ladder leading upward. Cal climbed first, pushing open a hatch carefully. Sunlight poured down. He scanned the area before signaling Mara to follow. They emerged into a narrow canyon. High stone walls blocked the wind, and shadows stretched long across the ground. Cal whistled softly, calling his mount. A few moments later, the six-legged animal appeared from behind a rock where he had left it hidden. Myra stared at it with surprise. "I've never seen one like that." "Local breed," Cal said. "Strong and stubborn." He helped her climb onto the saddle behind him. She hesitated before placing her hands lightly on his coat. They rode through the canyon slowly. For a while, neither spoke. Finally, Mara said quietly, "Why are you helping me?" Cal did not answer right away. "Because someone hired me," he said at last. "That's not the real reason." He glanced back slightly. She was watching him closely. Cal sighed. "I used to believe in systems," he said. "Law, order, rules. Then one day I learned those rules didn't protect everyone equally." Mara listened silently. "So now," he continued, "I help people who look like they need it." They rode until the canyon opened into a wide valley. Far away, small buildings stood around a rail track, an old trading post. "We'll stop there," Cal said. "Get supplies," Mara tensed. "Public places are dangerous. We won't stay long." As they approached, Cal noticed something that made his stomach tighten. Fresh tracks, large ones, not from local vehicles. He slowed them out. Mara noticed, too. "They found us." "Maybe," Cal said quietly. They entered the trading post carefully. Only a few people stood outside, tired workers, a vendor selling tools, a child chasing a small hovering toy. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Cal walked into the supply shop. He grabbed water packs, food bars, and a fresh bandage. While he paid, the shopkeeper leaned closer. "You got company outside," the man whispered. Cal turned slowly. Through the window he saw them, 3 figures dressed in clean gray coats, boots without dust, calm movements. One of them looked directly toward the shop as if sensing him watching. Mara stepped back instinctively. "They're here," she whispered. Cal felt the weight of the moment settle around them. He placed the credits on the counter and picked up the supplies. "We leave through the back," he said quietly. They moved toward the rear door. Just as they stepped outside, a sharp voice called from the front of the building. "Cal Hart," someone said calmly. He froze. The voice was clear, confident, and carried authority without shouting. "We only want the woman," the voice continued. "Hand her over and you can walk away." Mara's hand tightened slightly against his sleeve. Cal's jaw hardened. He turned just enough to see one of the gray-coated figures standing in the street, eyes cold but polite. Cal looked back at Mara. Fear flickered across her face, but she did not beg or run. She simply waited for his decision. Cal exhaled slowly. Then he turned away from the voice. "We're leaving," he said. And together, they slipped into the back alleys as tension filled the air, and the hunters began to move. Dust rose behind Cal's mount as he pushed it forward across the open plain. The trading post disappeared behind them, becoming nothing more than a dark line against the horizon. Myra held onto the saddle tightly. She did not look back. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The sky above stretched wide and endless, painted in pale blue and orange by the twin suns. The land was open here, too open. No cover, no place to hide. Cal slowed the mount after several miles and guided it toward a narrow ridge where broken rocks created natural shelter. He stopped and scanned the horizon with binocular lenses built into his wrist device. Nothing moved, but that didn't mean they were safe. "They let us go too easy," Mara said quietly. "They didn't let us go," Cal replied. "They're tracking us." She nodded. "They always do." Cal studied her face. "You've been running a long time," he said. "Not long enough," she answered. He turned away, thinking. The authority hunters were patient. They wouldn't rush. They would surround slowly, cutting off options until surrender felt easier than escape. He hated that kind of strategy. "We need a place they won't expect," he said finally. Mara tilted her head slightly. "You know somewhere?" Cal hesitated. "There's a settlement," he said. "Old friends, people who owe me favors." Her expression softened slightly. "Then why do you sound unsure?" He exhaled slowly. "Because bringing you there might put them at risk." Mara looked down at her hands. "Everyone is at risk because of me." Cal didn't respond. Instead, he nudged the mount forward again. They rode for hours. The land slowly changed. Red desert faded into rocky hills dotted with low trees. Windmills turned slowly, pulling water from deep underground. As the suns lowered, a small town appeared ahead, wooden buildings mixed with metal structures, smoke rising from chimneys. Lights flickered on as evening came. "This is Ridge Hollow," Cal said. Mara watched quietly as they approached. People noticed him immediately. A man waved from a workshop. 2 children ran past chasing a small drone toy. An older woman sitting on a porch nodded when she saw him. Cal slowed near a large building that looked half barn, half house. A tall man stepped out, wiping grease from his hands. "Thought you were dead," the man said with a grin. "Not today," Cal replied. The man's eyes moved to Mara. "And who's your friend?" "Mara," Cal said simply. "We need a place to stay, quiet." The man's smile faded slightly. He studied Cal's face and seemed to understand something unspoken. "You always bring trouble when you visit," he said. Cal gave a small shrug. "Only the interesting kind." The man laughed softly and gestured them inside. The building was warm, filled with tools, old furniture, and the smell of cooking food. Mara looked around carefully, as if trying to memorize everything at once. Cal introduced the man as Jonas. Jonas offered food and water without questions, which Mara accepted gratefully. Later, after she rested, Cal and Jonas spoke privately near the doorway. "You're being followed," Jonas said quietly. "Yes." "Authority," Cal nodded. Jonas whistled under his breath. "That's serious." "I need one night," Cal said. "Maybe two." Jonas looked toward Mara, who sat near the fire. "She doesn't look dangerous." "She's not," Cal said firmly. Jonas sighed. "Then you can stay, but the town deserves to know if danger is coming," Cal agreed. Soon after, several town leaders gathered. Mara explained her story carefully about the research, the hidden control systems, and the data she carried. Some people reacted with fear, others with anger. "If what she says is true," one woman said, "then every frontier world has been lied to. And if those hunters come here," another added, "we could lose everything." Silence filled the room. Mara lowered her eyes. "I don't want anyone to suffer because of me," she said softly. Cal stepped forward. "They won't stop hunting her," he said. "Whether she stays here or not, the question is whether we stand together or pretend this isn't happening." The room remained quiet. Finally, Jonas spoke. "We help," he said, "but we don't fight head-on. We protect our people first." Agreement slowly spread through the group. Plans began forming, extra lookouts were posted, lights were dimmed, old defensive systems were powered on quietly. The town prepared without panic. That night, Cal sat outside under the stars. Mara joined him after a while. "They didn't have to help," she said. "No," he replied. "But good people rarely choose the easy path," she hesitated. "Why didn't you turn me over earlier?" she asked. Cal looked toward the horizon. "Because when those hunters spoke," he said slowly, "they didn't talk about you like a person, they talked about you like an object." Myra said nothing, but something in her eyes softened. Suddenly a bell rang from the watchtower, once, twice. Alarm. Cal stood instantly. Jonas ran toward them. "Ships approaching from the east." Mara's face went pale. "They found us faster than I expected." Lights across the town dimmed further as people moved into safe positions. Cal checked his weapon, calm but focused. "Remember the plan," Jonas said. "We delay," Cal replied, "not fight." In the distance, dark shapes appeared against the sky, sleek ships moving slowly, confidently, like predators that knew their prey had nowhere to run. Mara looked at Cal. "This is my fault." "No," he said firmly. "This is their choice." The ships hovered above the hills, casting long shadows across Ridge Hollow. A calm voice echoed through loudspeakers. "Residents of Ridge Hollow," it said politely, "we request cooperation. Surrender the individual known as Mara and no harm will come to your settlement." The town fell silent. Mara closed her eyes briefly. Cal stepped forward, eyes hard. He knew the next decision would change everything. And far above, the ships waited patiently, like ghosts watching from the sky. The ships hovered above Ridge Hollow like dark clouds that refused to move. Their metal surfaces reflected the twin suns, shining cold and silent. A soft hum filled the air, deep and steady, like a warning that never ended. People gathered quietly near their homes, watching without speaking. Children were pulled indoors, doors closed softly. Cal stood in the middle of the street, his coat moving slightly in the wind. Mara stood beside him, her face calm but pale. The voice from the ship spoke again through hidden speakers. "We repeat our request. Surrender the individual known as Mara. Cooperation ensures safety." Jonas stepped forward beside Cal. "They sound polite," Jonas muttered. "They always do," Cal replied quietly. Mara looked around at the town, the people who had offered her food, shelter, kindness without asking for anything in return. "I can't let them suffer because of me," she said. Cal turned toward her quickly. "You don't get to decide that alone. This is bigger than me," she said softly. "They won't stop." Cal studied her carefully. He could see fear in her eyes, but also determination. "You said you had proof," he said. "Something that can expose them." She nodded slowly. "Yes. The data shows how they control frontier worlds. Hidden systems, false trade limits, secret monitoring. If the truth reaches enough people, they lose power." "Then that's our path," Cal said. Mara hesitated. "There's a problem." "Always is. The data needs a strong signal to transmit across systems, a tower or relay station powerful enough to break their interference." Cal's eyes moved toward the hills. "There's an old communication tower," he said slowly. "North Ridge, built before this town existed." Jonas frowned. "That place barely works." "Barely might be enough," Cal replied. Before they could speak further, a small drone descended from one of the ships. It floated calmly in front of them, projecting a tall figure made of light, the hunter leader. He appeared calm, almost friendly. "Cal Hart," the projection said, "you have a reputation for reasonable decisions." Cal crossed his arms. "You've done your research." "Of course," the man replied. "You protect people, you value order, help us resolve this peacefully." "And if I do," the man smiled faintly, "then unfortunate consequences may occur." The threat was quiet but clear. Mara stepped forward. "If I surrender," she said, "you leave the town alone." The man turned toward her. "Yes," Cal shook his head immediately. "Don't believe that." The man ignored him. "Mara," he said, voice soft, "you know resistance only delays the inevitable." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Cal spoke. "We're done talking," he said. He turned and walked away, signaling Mara and Jonas to follow. The drone watched them leave but did not stop them. Inside the barn, Cal spoke quickly. "We move now," he said, "before they decide to stop being patient." Jonas nodded. "I'll gather a small team." "No," Cal said. "Too many people means too much risk, just us." Mara looked uncertain. "You would risk everything for this?" she asked. Cal gave a small half-smile. "Already did." They left through a hidden trail behind the town, moving quickly toward the northern hills. The air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Halfway there, small lights appeared behind them. Drones. "They're tracking us," Mara said. Cal pushed forward. The old communication tower rose ahead, tall, thin, and rusted, leaning slightly against the sky. Broken panels hung loose, but its core still stood strong. Inside, dust covered ancient consoles. Myra moved quickly, connecting her wrist device to the main system. "It still has power," she said, surprised. "How long?" "Not long, I need 10 minutes." Cal moved toward the doorway, watching the horizon. The drones approached slowly, waiting for reinforcements. "You have 5, he said. Myra worked fast, fingers moving across glowing screens. Old systems flickered back to life, humming louder as energy flowed through forgotten circuits. Outside, one of the ships lowered toward the ground. Figures stepped out. Hunters. Cal took a steady breath. He didn't fire. Instead, he moved rocks and debris, creating small obstacles, forcing the hunters to slow down. He knew he couldn't win a direct fight, but he could buy time. "Mara," he called. "Almost," a sharp voice echoed outside. "Step away from the tower, Cal Hart." Cal ignored it. He shifted position again, blocking another path with a fallen panel. The hunters advanced carefully. Then light filled the tower. Myra turned, eyes bright. "It's ready." Cal rushed inside. "Do it." She pressed the final command. The tower roared to life, sending a powerful signal into the sky. Waves of light shot upward, spreading outward like ripples across water. Data transmitted, truth released. Across distant systems, hidden files appeared, proof of manipulation, control, and secrets kept too long. Outside, the hunters stopped moving. Their communication devices buzzed rapidly. Something had changed. The leader's voice came through again, but now it sounded tense. "You've made a mistake." Cal stepped outside beside Mara. "No," he said calmly. "You did." Moments later, the ships began to rise, not attacking, leaving. Mara watched them disappear into the sky, disbelief filling her face. "It worked," she whispered. Cal nodded. "People will ask questions now, and questions are harder to silence." They stood quietly as the suns lowered toward the horizon. For the first time since they met, Mara looked peaceful. "What happens now?" she asked. Cal shrugged slightly. "You choose where you go next," she smiled faintly. "And you?" "I ride," he said. "That's what I do." She laughed softly. They walked back toward Ridge Hollow together, the open sky above them wide and free. The frontier had changed, and so had they.